Hey everybody, just getting ready to go live here on Facebook. And why does it reset like that? Hold please. There we go. All right, my friends. Hello. I've got my Facebook feed going on over here. So if anybody is on Facebook and doing comments, I will see them over there. Otherwise, if you're joining me on Zoom, welcome. All right. So today I want to talk about frankincense. And frankincense is worth spending a little bit of time talking about, though I promise I won't go any longer than 20 minutes at the most. Try to make it shorter. Frankincense, in my humble opinion, frankincense is, I feel, the most important oil that a musician can have in their collection, hands down, full stop. If you have nothing else in your collection, musicians, you need frankincense. That's my opinion. Now, remember that everybody's body is different. One of the things we have to remember about using oils is, when you go to the doctor and they prescribe something and they say, I'm going to give you this thing for that thing that you're fighting, but if it doesn't work, come back and we'll find something else. Oils work the same way. So not everyone has the same experience with an oil. Say they want to use an oil for, managing anxious feelings. Maybe that one oil that worked for someone may not work the same way on you. Don't assume that oils don't work. You have to find the right one. That's when having an oily support person comes in really handy, because then you can say, hey, can I just have a sniff of whatever? Or ask them for recommendations, because sometimes you never know what's going to be the one that's going to work for you. In my personal experience and in the experience of most of my musician friends, anything that we've used with frankincense has been the thing. So I would like to spend a little bit of time just now talking about that. Also, if you're not on my email list, perhaps you don't know that I have a blog. So I have been blogging for a year now, and every week I put out something. This week, yesterday, it went live. It was all about frankincense. So I've got my frankincense blog over here, and I'm just going to quickly go through the different points, talk it through for those of you who prefer video. And if you don't want to listen to me talking, then you can just grab the blog. I posted it yesterday. It's at theessentialmusician.ca. Go to the blog. Okay, frankincense. So I call it frankincense king of the gig bag. If you don't know what a gig bag is, I use the term a little bit ironically, partly because there are hardly any gigs right now. But gig bag is one of those icky words. I have friends who are like, they have this series of icky words. Gig bag is one of those icky words. It's just a word, but it's like, it's kind of an icky word. Anyway, it's the bag that you carry your instrument in when you go to a performance. Usually it means a soft case that you put your instrument in. But I'm kind of I'm being a little cheeky, but what I mean by that is when you go to a performance, the real estate in that bag is really precious. So if you're going to be bringing oils with you to a performance or to a rehearsal, you don't have a lot of room to be schlepping extra stuff around, especially if you are not a pianist and you have to bring your instrument with you. So what you put in your bag, you have to choose really carefully. And if I could only choose one oil to bring with me, it would be, we call it my boyfriend Frank. Leslie Fernelli, who's one of our people, she calls it her boyfriend Frank. So Frank the man. Okay, so Frank, you want Frank with you. So how I started using frankincense in my musical life, when I first became an oiler in 2017, of course, like most musicians, I'm always wondering how I can do things to make my performing life go a little more smoothly, my musical life, just work better. So the first thing I wanted to do was figure out, how can oils help me in my musical life? So I started looking into oils to support performance. We can't say performance anxious feelings, stage fright, whatever you want to call it, but we can't call it performance anxiety. And memory, support of memory, just, things like that. I just wasn't sure what they would do. And it's really interesting to experiment on musicians, because we regularly put ourselves into situations that are stressful all the time, willingly, because we're crazy. So when we introduce a variable, we have a really good baseline knowledge of how we tend to react in stressful situations. So when we introduce something new, we can say, oh, I experienced this time, and the one thing that was different than what I usually do is this thing. So I'm going to talk about frankincense. So I discovered this magic blend that I call my Go Practice blend, and it is this. Actually, I'll show you. My friend Leanne gave me this beautiful bottle with the crystals in it. What's in here? 10 ml bottle. Write it down. 6 drops each of frankincense. I don't know why we always show the bottles, but we do. Peppermint. You know what peppermint looks like. Okay, frankincense for focus, concentration. Peppermint for energy, focus. Rosemary, this is rosemary. Rosemary for memory. And wild orange, but for some reason I picked up a second peppermint. Wild orange is the other one for mood, for again, focus and creativity. Okay, so but frankincense is really important because this is the one that manages anxious feelings, focus, and being able to deal with distractions. In my experience and in the experience of my friends, my musician friends who also I experiment on them all the time. Frankincense. This is the one that is really the variable that takes you from feeling scattered to being able to concentrate and let go of distractions. And this is why it's magic for stage. But for practicing, this is what I discovered. So I made this blend, which smells great, by the way. And I thought, it's never going to work. So I put it on. I wasn't sure where to put it on. So I just kind of put it on my wrists and my forearms because I felt like that's where it should go. Since, oh, it smells so good, you guys. Never get sick of this one. And I thought, oh, it'll never work. I don't know what it's going to do. My plan was to create a scent link between practicing and performing. And there's all kinds of studies out there that say, I think there's a study that says if you chew gum, they did it with gum. If you chew gum while you're studying for a test and then you chew the same kind of gum when you're doing the test, then the chances of you increasing your recall, your memory recall, are far increased when you have that scent link between the two things. So I had planned to do that. I had planned to use this blend that apparently is good for focus, use it when I'm practicing and then use it on stage. And what I found was when I was practicing, I wasn't expecting this. I found that my practicing, I got really productive and laser focused when I was practicing. And I could practice for longer and retain more of the information the next day and subsequent days. So that when I went back to it the next day, it was all still pretty much there. There wasn't as much sort of relapse in the knowledge, and it was easier to recall it. And then, of course, when I went on stage and used it again, yes, of course, I felt more confident. And I don't know whether it's because the scent link thing worked, but my practicing was definitely better. So I intended to use it for performing, but what I found was it's actually stellar for practicing. So if you're sitting there and I don't practice a whole lot these days, but I'm department chair. So I sit there and I'm overwhelmed all the time and I have a huge long list of things to do. When that happens, I grab this. It takes about 15 minutes. After about 15 minutes, you get in the zone and you get the work done. You get about 2 hours out of it. I've done it enough times to know 15 minutes before it kicks in, and then you get a good 2 hours of focused practice, work, whatever. So again, 10 ml bottle, 5 drops each. Frankincense, peppermint, rosemary, wild orange or lime or lemon or whatever, a citrus, top with coconut oil, and off you go. You can put it in the diffuser too. You can put 2 drops of each. I like to keep my diffuser at around 6 drops, so I just play with the proportions. There you go. And sometimes I change up the citrus. Yep, that's it. That's the thing. So now for performing, I started when I realized that I was having this experience with super hyper focus in practicing. I thought, oh, I wonder if it's just me. So I gave it to my husband, who is a musician too. And he's like, oh, this stuff's great. I can really focus too. And then I started giving it to my symphony friends, and they were all reporting, yeah, I can totally focus. This is great. And then I started having people tell me that when they were performing, they felt a lot less anxious on stage. So I started paying attention to that. And I find that when I'm using frankincense, there are other blends I've tried, and there are other combinations of oils that I've tried, but I find that it's frankincense for me. When I'm on stage, it allows me to notice distractions, but not get distracted by the distractions. So I can notice the guy in the back jingling the keys or the coins, or the person who's playing with the candy wrapper, or the people who are talking. And, I think I will never be grumpy about those things again, because that's like live performing with audience. Anyway, but I digress. So I notice those distractions, but I don't let them get in the way of my concentration. It's really amazing. It's very good. Frankincense is really good for meditation as well, because it's kind of a similar thing, right? You're remaining mindful on your playing, you're noticing distractions, but you're not getting distracted by them. frankincense. And I've used other oils. I've used copaiba is one that's similar that people use for anxious feelings. I find it doesn't have. I find it a little bit too calming. Frankincense is great because it doesn't take the edge off, but it doesn't make you crazy either. So you can still have your energy and your performance edge, but and not be too calm. It's perfect. It's perfect. Copaiba, I find I'm a little too calm. Vetiver, way too calm. Any of the trees, really way too calm. Balance, I don't even use balance on stage anymore. I did that once. I didn't even care that I was up there. So balance works too well. Don't use it on stage. Frankincense is just right. Goldilocks. Frank Goldilocks. Okay. Frankincense for calming the heck down. This is the next subheading in my blog. Here's the day I learned that frankincense is good for anxious feelings. So frankincense is also great for skin. I like to say I'm really 50 years old. Actually, I am almost 50 years old. But I put frankincense in my moisturizer most nights. And there was one time when I was chair a couple years ago, and I'm chair again, and I had one of those days when I hated everything and everybody, and I was just like, ugh. And I always put moisturizer in my moisturizer. I put it, I'm just going to do this, put a drop in the moisturizer. Apparently there's 3 drops. That's okay. And then I just, take a big whiff and I put it on my skin, right? Put it on, usually it's in my moisturizer. And I took this big whiff as I put it on. And when I exhaled, that hamster wheel where I was hating everyone, it just calmed down. It just kind of stopped. And I went, this frankincense good for anxious feelings. So I went to grab my resource book. Guess what? It's good for anxious feelings. I'm like, I didn't know that. I was using it for skin. So manage your skin imperfections and the wanting to kill everybody at work feelings all at the same time. There you go. Also, if you're backstage freaking out, it's because sometimes we go to performances and we don't feel ready. I had one where this is where I used balance, and I was back, and it was when I was chair, and I had no business being on stage, and I was backstage, and I wasn't ready, and I was like hyperventilating. I was so anxious, and I put balance on, and I calmed right down, and I walked on stage, and I was like, meh, I don't care that I'm here. Had I used frankincense, what I expect would have happened was it would have allowed me to calm down, stop the dang hyperventilating, get on stage, and do the work. That's what I fully expected would have done. Okay, frankincense for head tension. Okay. It's been a good 3 years since I've taken an over-the-counter medication for anything, seriously, like anything. And I'm someone who gets head tension, can't say the other word, head tension often. So if you've ever tried to play in a symphony rehearsal with a headache, it ain't no fun, right? And I used to take ibuprofen like candy, and I had to stop when I got the jabbing pains in my stomach, and I knew I had to stop. I knew it was coming. So one of the things I do to manage head tension is I use frankincense and peppermint together. Now, the trick is to make this work, you have to get on it early and you have to reapply often. So you take your frank and you take your thumb and you put a drop of frank on your thumb, and then you're going to stick it in the back. I use frank so much that if you can get frank for free this month, I'm almost out. Good things. I'm almost out. And you put it, why is there a fly in here? Is that a mosquito? It's December. There's a mosquito in my office. You're going to put it back towards, how there's like the hard palate and then the soft palate at the back. I'm not going to do it, but you just press it back there, hold it for 20 seconds. Then you do the same thing with the peppermint. Same thing. Hold it up there, drives it in. Okay. And do this before you go on stage, rehearse, whatever. The frankincense, you have to reapply fairly often though, but you have to get on it early or it won't work. Not in my experience. And then it just, but if you get on it early, every time you do that, you may have to reapply about every 5 minutes, but every time you do that, it just takes the edge off. It's like taking a plane to it. It just takes the edge off a little bit more, a little bit more. And if you keep at it, eventually it should go away. I also find if I drink some bubbly water with some peppermint in the water, it helps to drive that in too. But frankincense is really key. And you can also put the frank around your temples or around your hairline and your temples, back of the neck, wherever it sort of feels like you need it. And then the peppermint has a nice cooling sensation, and it distracts the nerves too. We sometimes say we can sort of chase the headache around. That's because the not the frankincense, but the peppermint distracts the nerves. So you put it here, your headache was here, you put the peppermint here, and then it moves over there. So then you put the peppermint over there. It's a thing. So, but frankincense with it is the real, like, works really well. Okay, frankincense for general health. There are all kinds of studies out there about frankincense and some promising research. Please do your own research and see what's up there. There's lots of third-party peer-reviewed medical journal frankincense studies out there. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. Do your own research. But we use frankincense for general health. So we use frankincense. I just take a drop under the tongue like every day, like this. Except I can't because it's almost empty, but I just go like that and take it under the tongue. It's really good. Calm me down. And it's great for cardiovascular, immune system support, especially if you feel like you're fighting something, put some on your spine. Not all the way. If you can't reach the whole spine, or you don't have, who can? Most people can't. But if you have someone around who can put it on your spine for you, great. If you don't, that's okay. Just get it on. Put it on the bottoms of your feet every day for general health. We put a combination of frankincense and copaiba together. We have a combo bottle, and we put 3 drops of that combo in our dog's food morning and night. And our dogs are 11 and almost 14, and that's the only, well, it was the only supplement they're on. They're on a joint thing now. And that's it. So our dogs are drug-free too. So that's what we use it for general health. The aroma of frankincense. Okay, back to being in symphony. Now, if you're anywhere around people who tend to have respiratory irritation issues, many of you know that I grew up in a home where my mom only had one functioning lung. That one lung didn't work very well. So I'm very aware and sympathetic to the plight of those who have respiratory irritation issues. Frankincense is one of those ones that doesn't seem to bother people. It's a resin. So it's from a tree resin, a Boswellia tree. And it doesn't smell flowery. It doesn't smell minty. It doesn't smell herby. It doesn't smell like trees. It's a resin. So it just there is an aroma, but it's just sort of, I don't know, it smells like a resin. My husband thinks it smells like Christmas Mass or like Sunday Mass. I'm not Catholic. I don't know. But it doesn't seem to bother people. So if you have to use it in rehearsal for head tension or whatever, or if you need it for anxious feelings, or if you need it for just, calming down, or just for focus or whatever, I have had some frankincense on and have stood right beside the scent police in the symphony, and she hasn't said anything. She has called me out on some other things, but not frankincense. And it's not so much that I'm trying to get away with anything, but it's just a point that it doesn't bother her. So that's another really great advantage of frankincense. And just to close off, one of the things that really makes me happy to have chosen doTERRA as my side hustle is their attention to stewardship and sourcing. And the frankincense story of stewardship and sourcing is, it's a really important story. And it's one that can take a lot of, there's a lot of digging into that story, but suffice it to say that frankincense is sourced in Somalia, Somaliland, Oman, developing countries where, for many people, the families who own the Boswellia groves, this is their only source of industry. This is the only source of income for these families. And frankincense is in very high demand because it can do so many things. It's such an important oil. There's a very large web of third party, what do you call the brokers? That's the word I'm looking for, of brokers who have a history of undercutting the farmers who are doing the work on the ground and who really need the money. The brokers come in, they undercut them, and then they do things to the oil, and then they resell it at a markup or whatever. So doTERRA got rid of that. They go in, they work directly with the farmers. There is no middleman. They do not buy from brokers. They support the families that they're working with. They have proprietary arrangements with the farmers, meaning they work only with those farmers, and those farmers work only with doTERRA. So the oils that you get from doTERRA, no one else has this particular combination blend of frankincense. It's a blend of 4 or 5 different Boswellia strains. And also they place a very high value on the environmental stewardship of the oil. Um, One of the things that really moved me once I was learning about a family who these families they own these groves and they're stayed with them through many generations and they have to make a living, so sometimes they end up cutting too often into the tree and damage the tree. So doTERRA went in and said this particular grove has to rest for a year, but we don't want you to be out your income. We're still going to support your income because of our proprietary arrangement, even though you won't be producing oil for us this year. And this is how we're going to honor our arrangement with you. We want to keep your business. We want to make sure that your family, you and your family, remain in as good a condition financially as you are when you're actually producing. So even though we're going to rest your trees, we still want you to take care of your trees. So we're still going to keep paying you. And that really, that says a lot about the importance that doTERRA really places on the environmental impact of their work, and the importance of their relationships with their growers. So you can get your frankincense for free this month with any order of 200 points or more. You can get Frank for free all month. It doesn't matter what kind of order. You don't have to be on loyalty rewards. You can be just getting started, whatever. If you need any help with an order or with any of this, let me know. That's what I'm here for. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for tuning in. Get your frankincense. Bye.